My grandfather used to say, "Success is like a glacier. What the world sees is tiny compared to the massive foundation beneath." I never truly grasped the weight of his words, until I became that glacier myself. I'm Lena Morales, and this is the story of how I went from being the invisible outcast in my sister's dazzling world to watching her pristine image shatter in one unforgettable evening. Raised above our family's small Cuban bakery in Miami's Little Havana, I learned the value of hard work before I could even multiply. By 9, I was boxing pastries and greeting regulars like family. By 13, I was finding accounting errors my uncle overlooked and suggesting we cut guava puree costs by partnering with the cafe across the street. "Business brain on a child's shoulders," my grandfather would say with a proud smile. While other kids played soccer, I was immersed in inventory sheets and scaling strategies. My parents toiled from dawn to dusk to send me to NYU, and I owed them not just success, but something extraordinary. By 23, I launched a microloan platform empowering immigrant communities, and by 28, it evolved into Solera Capital, a multi-million-dollar fintech firm. Yet I stayed in the shadows, quietly building while others chased spotlights. That's when I met Ryan, in a dusty little bookstore where a clumsy book avalanche turned into a cafecito, then lunch, then love. Ryan, a humble civics teacher with a heart full of purpose, proposed 6 months later, and I said yes without a doubt. My whole family celebrated, except Camilla. My sister, Camilla, the golden child in heels and designer suits, thrived on status as a marketing director at one of Miami's elite investment firms, Vallon and Cross. She loved me, sure, but never respected me. At a family dinner, wine swirling in hand, she asked with a smirk, "Still running the bakery and your little app thing?" I could have told her my little app had just signed a major deal with one of the biggest private equity firms in the Southeast. But I didn't. I'd grown comfortable being underestimated. "Yeah?" I said, sipping my coffee, still keeping the pastries flowing. She laughed, basking in what she assumed was superiority. What she didn't know was that her prestigious firm had been licensing my analytical tools for over a year and was in talks for a major expansion. I smiled and congratulated her when she boasted about landing the CEO's praise, knowing full well that the man she admired was emailing me personally. Then came the gala, Camilla's self-thrown party to celebrate her promotion. At the planning dinner, she flashed a sugary smile laced with contempt. "Lena, since you know food service, would you mind managing the catering staff?" Mom clapped in approval. "Perfect. Lena's organized." I met Camilla's smug gaze and answered smoothly, "Of course, I'd be happy to." That night, Ryan pulled me aside, whispering, "You don't have to do this. We can fake a work emergency." But my mind was already racing. That very morning, I'd received a message from none other than James Vallon, the CEO of Camilla's firm. He wanted to meet the elusive founder of Solera Capital, me, and he'd be attending tonight's event. The irony was delicious. For the first time in months, I smiled, not to keep the peace, but because I could finally see how this story would unfold. When we arrived, the Whitmore estate looked like Wall Street had crash-landed in a Pinterest dream. Harpist by the fountain, ice sculptures sweating in the Miami heat, and enough crystal stemware to fund a startup. Camilla glided toward me in a gown that shimmered like status incarnate. "The catering team is waiting. Keep them in line," she said, eyeing my simple black dress. "And stay behind the scenes." I nodded with a calm smile. "Of course, Camilla. Everything will run perfectly." Ryan leaned in. "We can still go." But I shook my head. No. Tonight was not a night to retreat. Everything was unfolding exactly as I'd planned. Because sometimes, the sweetest form of revenge isn't retribution. It's revelation. And this one was about to be spectacular. In the kitchen, the catering team was in visible disarray, scrambling to meet Camilla's ever-shifting demands. She had apparently ordered last-minute changes again. "Miss Morales?" A young, anxious server approached me, eyes wide. "Your sister wants the champagne served precisely at 8:15 for her speech, but also expects ongoing tray service, and we're short 2 people." I offered a calm smile, the kind forged in the sweltering backroom of a bakery with no air conditioning. "Don't worry," I said, rolling up my sleeves. "I've survived worse with a whisk in one hand and a calculator in the other. If you've ever been underestimated by those who were supposed to champion you, stay close, because what unfolded next didn't just shift the mood, it shattered illusions. And if you want to see how silent power thunders when the moment is right, subscribe. What's coming is something you won't want to miss." For the next hour, I was everywhere, coordinating plating, directing service flow, checking timing like a maestro behind a velvet curtain. Meanwhile, I discreetly watched the guest list unfold, noting each new arrival. Camilla floated through, the crowd laughing a little too hard, sipping Prosecco a little too fast, and performing for her elite audience like a peacock in a crystal cage. "Did you see Lena?" I overheard her mock to a circle of sharp-suited executives. "She's helping the servers tonight. Honestly, it's where she belongs. She always felt more comfortable behind a counter." Laughter rippled like clinking. Ice and Rosa, our ever-graceful mother, added with saccharine sorrow. "We've always tried to include her, of course. But with her background, well, we can only do so much." I glided past them with another tray of delicate canapes, my face serene, my pulse steady. At 7:55 p.m., my phone buzzed. A message from my CFO. "All signed. We're greenlit." Right on cue. Nearby, Camilla, flushed with wine and the thrill of praise, launched into another anecdote, voice dripping with sarcasm. "When Ryan told me he was dating my sister, I thought he was joking. A baker-turned-app tinkerer? Bless him. But Mom always says charity begins at home." Rosa chimed in with faux concern. "We're thinking of helping her buy a modest condo. Not too close to Coral Gables, of course. Just something manageable." But then the air changed. A ripple swept through the room. James Vallon had arrived. Camilla nearly stumbled in her haste to greet him. "Mr. Vallon, we're so honored," she gushed. Dressed in a navy bespoke suit, his gaze scanned the room and stopped when it landed on me. His brow furrowed, recognition dawning. Camilla's laugh wobbled. "Oh, don't mind her," she said quickly. "That's just my sister Lena, helping out in her comfort zone. Let me show you the marketing deck I prepared." But James didn't look away. "Wait a moment," he said slowly. I handed off my tray and stepped forward. "Hello, James," I said, voice steady. "Thank you for coming." His expression shifted to delighted surprise. "Mrs. Morales," he said, smiling. "I didn't expect to see you serving drinks at your own celebration." Camilla froze. "Wait, what?" she blurted, her voice going sharp. "She's a baker!" But James continued smoothly. "Given that Solera Capital just finalized its majority acquisition of Vallon and Cross this morning, I assumed this event was to announce the merger." He glanced at me, a sly glint in his eye. "Unless you were saving that surprise." The room fell into stunned silence. Even the string quartet seemed to forget their notes. You could hear the soft clink of untouched champagne. Camilla's flute slipped from her hand, shattering on the marble. She stammered. There must be some mistake. Lena, she runs a bakery. That's it." James chuckled. "Mrs. Morales is the founder and CEO of Solera Capital, which now owns 51% of my firm. And yes, that includes your department." He turned to me, clearly impressed. "Those data optimization tools you proposed were genius. Our team couldn't stop praising them." Across the room, Rosa looked like she'd seen a ghost, her hand gripping a chair for balance. "This can't be." Lena doesn't... She couldn't be... I met her eyes and said calmly, but with quiet force. Oh, but I am. I've been building Solera for years, and as of 10 minutes ago, we control Valon and Cross. My voice wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. In that silence, it rang out like thunder. I turned slowly to face Camilla, who stood frozen, her face ashen, her mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. All those times, I began, my voice steady. All those moments you looked down on me. She flinched. All those times you dismissed me, I finished for her. You treated me like I didn't belong, like I should just be grateful to exist on the fringes of your perfectly curated world. The crowd was still buzzing when Ryan stumbled forward, eyes wide with disbelief. Lena, why didn't you tell me? He asked. I looked at him softly. Would it have changed anything? I whispered. Would you have defended me if you knew I had money? Because you certainly didn't when you thought I had nothing. He stepped back, speechless. Then James cleared his throat, breaking the thick silence. Well, he said with a faint smile, since everyone's already assembled, why don't we make it official? Solera Capital's leadership is now at the helm of Valon and Cross. Gladly, I replied. I turned back to Camilla with a polite smile. Weren't you planning a speech for tonight? Would you still like to deliver it, or shall I? Trembling, face contorted with rage, she turned on her heel and fled, our mother Rosa trailing behind her in a stunned daze. I plucked a champagne glass from a passing tray and gently tapped it. Ladies and gentlemen, I announced, stepping into the center of the room. If I may have your attention, what happened tonight may have shaken this family, but believe me, we've only just begun. In the aftermath, Ryan lingered near the back, dazed. Rosa was nowhere in sight. My father, Hector Morales, who had always remained silent in family gatherings, now stood near the bar, staring into his empty glass. After the formal announcement, James approached me, amusement dancing in his eyes. That, he said, was the most entertaining business reveal I've ever witnessed. But I have to ask, why let them believe you were just a baker for so long? I took a sip of champagne, letting the pause stretch. Because people reveal who they truly are when they think you're beneath them. He nodded, impressed. Well, their loss is my gain. I look forward to working with you. For real this time. As the party wound down, Camilla reemerged, her makeup hastily repaired, fury simmering just beneath the surface. She marched toward me. You humiliated me, she spat, in front of every major contact I've cultivated. I remained calm. No, Camilla, you humiliated yourself. I simply stopped shielding you from the consequences. I quit, she snapped. I won't work for you. That's your choice, I replied coolly. But before you storm off, understand this. Every major firm in Miami knows what happened tonight. Your comments about people like me, aimed at your own CEO, won't go unnoticed. Her posture slackened. What do you want from me? She asked, defeated. I want you to learn, I said. Starting Monday, you'll be working with our community outreach program. We're launching an initiative to help local restaurants and small businesses get better access to financial tools. Her eyes widened. Reporting to who? I smiled. To my mother. She still runs the family bakery, by choice, not desperation. She'll be leading the project. Camilla opened her mouth, but no words came. That's when Rosa appeared again, face drawn, voice cracking. Lena, surely we can discuss this privately. We're family. I turned to face her fully. Family? For 3 years you had me sit with the kitchen staff, cropped me out of photos, and whispered about me like I was a burden. When exactly did I become family? She murmured. We didn't know that you had money. Exactly, I replied. You assumed I wasn't worthy of respect, because you thought I was poor. At that moment, my father stepped forward and placed his glass down with a soft clink. She's right, Hector said quietly, but with conviction. We've treated her shamefully. I sat by and watched our values rot into pride and prejudice. For once, his voice cut through the room like a blade. Maybe this was what it took to wake us up. Ryan stepped forward next. The party had emptied, only our fractured family remained amidst a mess of shattered illusions. Why didn't you tell me? He asked again. I sighed. I wanted to, so many times, but every time you said nothing while they mocked me, I realized something. If you couldn't respect me as a baker, then you didn't deserve to know me as a CEO. His voice cracked. But I love you. Love without respect isn't love that lasts, Ryan. Every time you let them tear me down, you showed me how little I mattered. And now that you understand I'm rich, you want to change? That's not growth. That's adaptation. I slipped off my wedding ring and placed it on a marble table, watching the silver catch the light. I filed for divorce last week. Expect to hear from my attorney. Lena, please, he started, but I'd already turned away. I faced Camilla one last time. I'll be meeting with the Valon and Crossboard tomorrow. But you'll report to my mother at the bakery on Monday. She doesn't tolerate lateness. Then my gaze met Rosa's. The estate looks lovely tonight. Enjoy it while you can. The bank approved my bid this morning. It now belongs to the Morales Foundation for Opportunity, our new nonprofit headquarters, dedicated to uplifting Florida's service workers. Their stunned faces were priceless, but I didn't linger. Outside, the evening air was soft, the wind gently brushing against my cheek. My phone buzzed. Coming to the bakery for late dinner? Your father made your favorite. I smiled. Be there in 20. 20 minutes later, I was back where it all began, at my parents' bakery, eating empanadas and laughing about the night's chaos. People like that, Mom muttered, shaking her head. They need hard lessons. Success without humility, Dad added, is like sugar without yeast. Looks sweet, but it'll never rise. As I wiped down the counter, yes, the CEO of Solera Capital still wipes counters, I thought about the little girl who once counted change in a tin box and now counts capital in billions. But my real wealth? It's never been in money. It's in respect, integrity, and the courage to know my worth. If this story reminded you of your own fight to be seen, to be valued, to be enough, share it in the comments. Let's create a space where quiet strength is celebrated. And if you believe success without humility means nothing, then subscribe, because I built my empire brick by brick. But it all began with this one truth. Never let anyone else define your value. Keep building, especially when no one's watching. Because that's when true character, not just success, is forged.